all right. So what I will be doing is I'll go through how to add a few basic fields for a payment form, and then I'm hoping that I do have enough time left to show you how to do obviously the subtotaling, and then also adding a cash or check option, since those are pretty popular items on payment forms. So of course the first thing you ever do to create forms is to log into your site. And then once you are logged in, you go to Content, and there should be an option under Content specifically for web forms. So if you go to web forms, you can see any web forms that you've already created, and this will be a combination of just information forms, so forms that don't take payments, and your payment forms would also be listed here. So an example of a payment form would be something like a donation form. So here's a donation form that's already been built out. You have fields where you collect information about the donor, amounts that the donor would like to pay, a selection of different funds that the donor can donate to, and other information that you might be collecting, such as an acknowledgement card for the person donating. And then if we go to the next page, it will have, if you're doing a subtotaling form, it will have a total of what the person has selected so far. And again, I'm hoping that I will also be able to cover adding a percentage for a credit card fee, so that the person then has an option of, if they want to pay by check and avoid that fee, they can select check and know where to mail it to, or if they're okay with that extra 50 cents, they can select credit card and then enter their billing information and credit card information for that. But most importantly, before you even start building out payment forms, is that you need to make sure that your website is connected to a payment processor. You will work with either me or someone in the support staff. If you've already launched your site and you're now interested in payment forms, then you would submit a support ticket asking that a payment processor payment module be added to your site. And the two that we recommend is either Authorize.net or PayPal. Those are the two that work with the CMS web forms that we have. Now that a couple more people have joined the call, I just wanted to let everybody know that you can, if you want to, if you have a question along the way, chat me in the chat box on the GoToMeeting toolbar. Otherwise, I am going to go ahead and just mute everybody right now, and if when I get to a stopping point, I'll unmute everybody, and then you can ask your question verbally if that's the time to do that. Okay. All right. So just trying to think if there's any other just generalities that I should point out. I'm not thinking of anything right now. Oh, the other thing would be that you never want to ask for the user's credit card number itself in a field. Our websites don't have the level of security where a credit card is going to be stored in the website and be secure. We have a specific field, which I'll show you, which collects that payment information, and that information is given to the payment processor almost immediately, and it never spends any time on your website. So that would be another important thing, is do not create fields where the user inserts their credit card information. You'll just use a field type called a payment information field, and that will autofill with this information here. So that was the other thing that I wanted to mention. Okay, so how to create a payment form such as something like this, or another type of payment form other than a donation would be an event where you're collecting money, such as a Shabbat dinner, you know, something like that. So I'm going to use a summer barbecue as my starting point for this payment form. Before I even start to create a form on my website, I want to have a general outline of what information I'm going to have on that form and what fields I'm going to want to collect information for that event or payment collecting type. So just using Word or a PDF document is something, if something's already been created, would be the first step to take when you're creating a payment form. So on this Word document, I have the title I want to use, the introductory information about this event, and then I have set out my options. What are my options are going to be? I'm going to have an adult and child price. I'm going to be asking the names of the people who are coming, the phone number and email address so that we can communicate with these people. You know, I have options about the meals. Are they going to want a vegetarian meal? And then it's always a great idea for events to solicit volunteer help if that's the custom of your congregation, to involve your members in a volunteer way. And then again, I'm going to try to add the total with a credit card fee, and then whether or not a person's going to pay by check, by mailing it in, or if they're going to pay by credit card. So again, having this all laid out in a Word document is the first place to start. The same thing as if you want to add images. Already have your images ready to go, sized, that type of thing. But I'll add that on the end if we have time. All right, so I have my form outline here. So once I have that information, I want to go to Content and Add Content, and in the flyout, I'm going to go to Web Form. So this is the basic outline for a web form. Begins with the title, the body. It looks familiar to those of you who have already been working on your websites and building out content. So the title of my form is going to be the Midsummer Barbecue. And then you have two options for the information on the form. You can either add the general information about the event in the body area of the form, but know that any information you put in the body area is going to appear at the top of every page of the form that you have. Why would you have a multiple page form? Well, in order to have a subtotal appear before a user pays for something, you actually have to have at least a two-page form. So again, thinking about how you want your form to look, if you want a total or a subtotal to appear before the user submits the form, you'll need to have a multiple page form. So I would suggest that instead of putting your introductory information in the body, I'm just going to go ahead and save it, you place it in what's called a markup. So to create a markup, actually, so let me pause there for a second and go back to one of those forms that I created so I can actually show you what I was talking about. So I go to this sample form, I have this great information that appears on my home page. Now this information I put in the body. So after I fill out this information and go to the next page, because it's in the body of the form, it appears again at the top, when all I actually really want was just my total information to show there. So in order to avoid that, what you would do is you would, again, create a markup. So here's that form that I just created. I'm going to go into Edit It now. I'm going to skip the body part. I'm not ready to put it in the menu yet because I don't want this form to be live. And another way that you can prevent a form from being searched for or accessed before you are complete with it is that you can unpublish it. Now on most people's sites, your content is automatically published upon creating it. So with forms, you can scroll down into the Edit tab under Publishing Options and unpublish it. So again, if someone is looking for if you've announced the summer barbecue already on your calendar and people are looking for information about it and they go to search for it, if it's unpublished form, they won't find the form yet. All right, so now that I've created the form, I've unpublished it, I'm going to go to work on it, and I'm going to go to this Web Form tab. Put in my first component, which is going to be that markup. And that markup is going to be the introductory information. So the title that you give this field is not going to appear on the form, so I'm just going to call this intro info. And I'm going to select the field type, which is a markup, and then go ahead and add it. Okay, now I have a field that looks pretty much identical to the body that I saw on the front part of the form. So now I have the opportunity to add this additional information. So if all the information on your little cheat sheet here is exactly what you want in the form, you can copy that information from Word, but don't paste it directly into the form, because you are now pasting it into the web form code itself. You definitely want to use the paste in plain text tool if you're going to copy from Word into the form. So I'm going to copy into that paste in plain text tool, and now the text style and formatting is going to match my site rather than what I had in my Word document. And you can get fancy here. You can bold things, you know, particular information that you want to bring to the user's attention. You know, highlight information, additional times, and how things are broken down. And this is also where you can add images. But I'm going to focus mostly on the form itself, so I'm going to just go ahead now and scroll down and save this component. All right. So let's just take a look at the form for those folks that are new to this. If I go to the View tab, this is what my form looks like at this point. It's got a title, and it's got that introductory information in that markup. Nothing else yet. So my next task is to start to create my fields. So to edit the form fields, you want to go to Web Form. If you go to Edit, that's just going to take you to your title and your body and those other settings. So to create fields and to manage fields, you want to go to the Web Form tab. So my next item on this payment form are the meal options, which will include the prices of those tickets. So I'm going to title this field Meal Options. Now this title will actually appear on the form. This is the title of my select options. The type of field I want is the ability for the user to select an item. So I'm going to select options. Actually, just give me 1 second. Nope, I take that back. Meal options is actually going to be another markup. I apologize. This is just the title of this area. So meal options, and you can give this a fancy heading if you want to, if you have heading styles on your website, which everybody should. So now I've saved that markup, and again I'm just going to jump to the front real quick so that you can see, just like the other markup, it just appears as text. Back to the web form. Now I'm going to create my meal options. I'm going to have an adult price. So this one is going to be adult. What did I call them? Adult price. I want to make sure people know who adults are, so that's going to be 13 years and older. Okay. And this is going to be the select options field. Click on add. Okay. Now this is the settings for a select options. The first thing that you're going to want to do is take note of the field key, because this is going to play a role in your subtotaling. Since you're going to be using this field key, try to make it as short as possible, but do know that you can't have field keys for different fields that are the same. So I'm going to just reduce, it takes the title and makes the field key out of it. So I'm going to reduce this down to adult price. The other item that you want to have alongside of you when you create these forms is either Notepad or text edit, or even Word, but I find Notepad to be the best, or text edit to be the best option, because now you need to start keeping track of these field keys, because the field keys are used in creating the subtotal and the total of your web form. So if you've got Notepad, bring it, open up a Notepad item and copy your field into that Notepad. Okay, I have another one open. I'm just going to close that one. All right. We don't really need to put a description here. But if we wanted to, we could actually put that 13 years or older as the option. So let me just go ahead and do that so that you can see what it looks like. And then under options, generally you wouldn't be using this default setting for options, because what it does is it just assigns a 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. For the number of options you have as the default value. And in this particular case, we're going to create options for 1 adult ticket, 2 adult tickets, 3 adult tickets, 4 adult tickets. So in order to do that, we want to click on the manual entry link. And let me just make sure I have the price right on here. Oops, this one's going funky, I think, because of, I think I set the adult price at 10. So the amount of that ticket price goes first, $10. Then you're going to use the pipe symbol, which is a shift and the / key to create a vertical pike symbol. And then you're going to add the text that the user's actually going to see. So I'm going to put 1 adult price, or actually just 1 adult, $10. Then the next one, you're going to have to do the calculations yourself. So $20 is the next one. I like to use nice round numbers. 2 adults is 20. You want to make sure that the user knows how much they're going to be paying before they select it. 30, 3 adults, and then on up until you have as many as you think a person's going to select. So maybe up to 6 adults is what you would place in here as an option. I'll just do one more since we're crunched for time. 4 adults. All right. So once you have your options there, you're then, I just wanted to let you know that if you don't put a default value, it will just show none as the initial option, and then the drop-down will show these other options. Okay. Obviously, at some point, we're going to select things as mandatory or not being mandatory, but I heavily suggest as a tip not to set your mandatory fields until you're completely done with the form, because it makes testing the form a lot easier if you don't have to enter information in fields until you're just ready to launch the form itself and test it. I'm going to have these options appear as a list box, so a drop-down box. And depending on the length of the title of the field, the title of the option either looks good above or in line. I'm going to select inline so that you see what that looks like. And then we'll save the components. So I just want to review real quick. You give a title of the price, the field price, or the option. Take your field key, note it in your notepad. You can give some helper text to that option. You create your options by selecting the manual entry that was over here with the price on the left side and then the descriptor of that option on the right. You can select as a list box, and if it's not checked, it will be radio buttons, and whether or not you want the label to be above or in line with the option. So let's go ahead and save this component so we can take a look at what it looks like. As soon as you save a component, it will take you back to this web form table. So if you want to see what the form looks like, then you can always click on View, and it will give you the most updated view of what it looks like. So now you can see my title, and this is the helper text, 3 years and older, and now the select options you can see here. Okay. So my next item is a child. So I'm going to go back to web form. I'm going to put child price. It's going to be a select options. So I select options as my field type and I click add. All right. Again, this is going to be involved in my subtotal, so I want to copy that field key and add it to my notepad. And in this description, it's going to be, hold on one second. My Word document messed up on me, and I can't see my information anymore. Here we go. Okay, so 3 to 12 years is what I had on that. So ages 3 to 12 years. And then again, I want to add my values manually. Okay, it's $5 for one child. So one child, $5. $10 for the second child. 2 children, $10, and et cetera, et cetera. You know, do your own math here for as many options as you'd like. Okay. So once you have all of your options in place, and remember, don't add any spaces between the information that's on the left-hand side and the information that's on the left side of that pike symbol. Do the same thing. I want it as a list box. I want the title to be inline, and I'm going to go ahead and save component. It'll appear in the table, and again, I'm going to check real quick. All right, so now I have my meal options, adult price, child price, and head back over to the item. So children up to 3 years are going to be free. So now I need to put a markup in there, letting people know that that information. So this doesn't show, so I'm just going to name this young child. It's going to be a markup. I'm going to add it. I don't need the field key because this isn't involved in calculating the price. I just need to put children 2 years and younger are free. I'm just going to add that now to my form. Right? Quick check-in. I like to go back and forth when I create fields. I like to see what they look like on the form after I create them. But once you get the hang of things, you may just like go with all your fields and then take a final look at it. But whatever your comfort level is with how you're adding fields is what you can do. All right, so now my next option is who's attending. I'm going to put in some information fields. All right, so I go back to my web form, and I'm going to create a mock-up who is attending. And this is going to be a markup. Markups are just basic text, or if you even wanted to add images onto your form, this is how you would add an image. And I'm going to give a heading style to this one, just to indicate that it's a separate section of the form. And now I have my fields for names of adults, names of children. All right, we'll start with those. So let's say you wanted to get name tags or something like that made up, then this would be helpful. So you have 2 choices here for field type. You can either do a text field, which is 1 line of text, or a text area, which involves several lines of text. So I'm going to go ahead and click on text area so you can see what that looks like. I'm going to add that to the form. I don't need to do anything with the field key because it's not involved in the total. I usually just keep the default settings that it's going to be 3 columns, 3 rows high. It can be resizable. So basically, you know, I'm just going to save the component from here. And let's add the children. Names of children. Same thing, text area. And whatever field you had selected just previously will default in this selection. So just be careful, because if you're going to change it to a different type, remember that you need to change it to something else. Otherwise, if you add that field, you can't go back and change the field type. You would have to delete the field that you just created and recreate it in the type of field that you wanted. Right? Again, I don't really need to do anything with the default settings here, so I'm going to save component and take a quick look back at the outside of my form. So my meal options are there, and the who is attending, names of adults, names of children. So you can see how big these text areas can be. So those are useful if people are going to be adding a lot of information onto the form. If you, but again, if I wanted this to be a text field instead of a text area, I would actually have to delete this and recreate it as a text field, a single line, rather than multiple lines. All right, my next question is phone number and email address. So phone number is going to be a text field, right? So I'm going to add that. I might want to put some helper text in here on how you want to collect this information. So I'm going to put include area code, use formats, either the brackets or parentheses with a dash, yep, or just dashes. Okay. I'm not going to really mess with any of the settings other than maybe, no, I'm going to have the label up here above. So I'm going to save that component. Next one is an email address. There's a specific field type for emails. So if you are collecting email addresses, do use the email field type. The reason why is when you set the email settings for this form to send out notifications, it looks for that email field type for the user of the form. If you just add an email as a text field, you will not be able to find, the CMS will not be able to find the email address that the user put in there as a text field. It has to be added as an email field type. So email field, click on add, and of course this is probably something we would make mandatory, but skip the mandatory for now and just get it into the field, into the form. Save component. All right, let's take a look, see what we have so far. So a text field is just a single line, text area is multiple lines, and then the email looks just like a text field, but in the back end it's specially coded to be able to collect that email in order to send out the email notification of the form itself. All right? Now what's next on my list? We want to know whether or not there's any vegetarians or veggies who would like to order. So we're going to go back to the web form, and we're going to call this field, would you like a veggie burger option? Because there's just one option here. Someone's either going to not check it or check it. So this title I'm putting in here will appear on the form. So this is going to be a select options. Then I click add. All right, don't need to do anything with the field key. This has nothing to do with payment. I tend to always go for the manual entry. Again, if you don't do manual entry, if you do the normal entry, I'll show you what happens. So if the value is yes, I'm going to have this in line. I'm going to save component. Okay, let's go back to the form. We see what it looks like. The person's going to check yes or not check yes. But what does it look like as the select options if I keep it in that normal mode of options? Go back to the web form, click into edit. Now if I click on manual entry, I see that yes is given the value of 1. So when I create a report on these form answers, it's just going to say 1 on the report, and I'm gonna either need to have to remember that the option 1 means yes, or go back into the form and figure out what it is. So that's why I tend to always go for the manual entry rather than the default values of 1, 2, 3, 4 that it gives the select options item. So I'm going to actually just call this veggie rather than just yes as my helper text on the back end. I'm going to save that component. Okay. If you would like, so the next one is going to be if you would like to volunteer to set up cleanup, right? So I'm going to actually just take that whole entire line because that's actually going to be the title of my field. In this case, I don't have to use paste in plain text because it's not with the WYSIWYG editor. This is another select options. I'm going to click on add. All right. So now again, manual entry for my options, and these are my options. So this one's going to be set up. And in this option for the user, I'm going to let them know that the yes setup is for 3 to 4 p.m. so that they know what time they need to be there for that. Okay. Then I'm going to have cleanup number 1 for my next option. So this is going to be, right after the meal. And then the cleanup 2, which is after all the festivities are over. So we kind of have that second shift of cleanup option. All right, so those are my options. I'm going to scroll down. Because this title is so long, I want this title to show above the options, and I am going to make this one a list box, so a drop-down list. Save component. All right, let's take a look. Okay, so everything looks pretty good so far. And now we're into creating a total for the form. All right. Let me pause here and take everybody off of mute and see if anyone has a question at this point. Although, Jesse, I am going to mute you since we know you have feedback going on. So anyone have a question up at this point that anyone would like to ask? If you'd like me to review any of the form types or how to add them, happy to do that at this point. Got about a half an hour left. Okay, I'm just going to continue on through to do that then. All right, I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody. Again, if you have a question, please put it in the chat box, and I'll try to keep my eye. Oh, Rachel had a question. Hold on a second. Go ahead, Rachel. Rachel, are you there? I don't hear you. Oh, if you have multiple people attending an event that want the veggie burger. Okay, yep, so I probably should have put the number of burgers that somebody wanted. So let me add that real quick. And this is actually will show you how to do a conditional, actually. So let's go back to the web form. And we're going to add a component for the number of veggie burgers. So number of veggie burgers, right? This is going to, you can either have it as a text field where someone puts in their own number. There is a number field. So you could select a number field for this and click add. Okay. Then minimum is going to be a 0, so you can set a minimum and a maximum for this. So I can't imagine someone asking for more than 10 veggie burgers. And then let's see. I think that pretty much is going to be it. So we're going to set a conditional rule that this number of veggie burgers only appears if someone says yes to the veggie burger. So if you click the conditional rule box, look for the component that asks that question, which is, would you like a veggie burger? This number field will appear if the answer is one of, and it's the value that we put on the, I believe it was the left side, which was veggie, I think. We'll see in just a second. It may need to be the yes, but we'll go ahead and save this component and see if it works. But we do want the number of veggies to appear right under the question about veggie burgers. So in order to rearrange your fields, you click and drag. So let's drag that up to right under the veggie burger question and save that change. Now let's go back to the view. And if I set my conditional correctly, it shouldn't show. So if I click yes on veggie burger, then it shows me a number. And I can click this arrow and select as many veggie burgers as I want. And if I made a mistake, I can select the 0, because once you start clicking in here, you can't kind of go back and not select something. So to put in a number, you had two choices. You could put in a text field where someone could just type in the number that they wanted, or you have that number field too, which you could use. All right. So another question came in. All right. So to make the email, phone, etc. mandatory, do you have to go into each separate field component to make them mandatory? Good question. You don't. When you look at the web form table, there's this great little convenient mandatory box. So that makes it very quick and easy to make things mandatory at the very end of your process instead of having to go back into each one of the fields that you want mandatory and changing them. The only thing you need to remember is once you check your boxes for mandatory, you do need to save it. So that would be the only thing that you might miss by not doing it inside the component itself. All right, so let's get to the totals. In order to create a subtotaling form, it has to include a page break. So that's the first thing you do, is create a page break. The information that you put in this field here for the page break will not show, but what I usually do is kind of like bring my attention that it's a page break by just maybe putting like the equal signs on either side of the page break. And then you select the page break option under the type of field and click Add. I generally don't do anything to change the default settings, but you can customize what the link titles are at the bottom of the page that say either next page or previous page. I don't really, have ever found a reason to change this wording, but you can if you want to. It's there to do if you need it. So save the component, and now you see there's also now a dotted line that will also visually tell you that you now have 2 pages. And if I go back to view my form on the front end, I will see now at the bottom a next page button rather than the submit button, which was there before. All right, go back to the web form, and now let's prepare to do our total for the adult and children prices that actually have a cost to them. All right, so this is going to be the total cost. You want it as a text field, right? So that's the type of field that you want for totaling. Click on Add. This is another field key that you need. So copy that field key onto your little cheat sheet here. Right, you can add a description here if you want, but usually total cost is self-explanatory. You can make the fields a little bit shorter with the width, so I'm just going to make this up to 20 characters long, and you can put a $sign in front of the field. And then depending on the title that you gave it, you can either have it appear above or in line with the title. Before I start doing my macro code, which is going to create the total, I actually need to save this field first. If you go directly into adding the macro code and you save it, your macro code actually disappears. So you have to create the field and save it for the total amount first, and then go back and edit it in order to add the macro code. That's pretty important because you could spend a lot of time building out your macro code only to lose it if you did not create the field first and then go back and edit it. All right, so I'm in Edit. I scroll down to the bottom. I click on macro code, and here comes the fun part, sarcastically. It's a math equation, and it uses these field keys in order to create that total cost and that addition that you need for that total cost. Down here is some helper text of how the formula works. You have to always have this $sign and values at the beginning. Then if the amounts that you're charging are within a field set, you also have to use the field key for that field set. Now in this form that we're working on, we don't have our price options in a field set, so we can ignore this part, okay? And now we just concentrate on the field key and this bracket with the 0 in it. So here we go. The first line is using the field key of that total amount. Okay, so the formula is going to go $, and values, just like the helper text down below here, followed by a square bracket. And it's really important not to put any spaces in this code, because that will create errors. And now you're going to put the field key for that total cost here, another square bracket. Oh, actually, I take that back. It has these single quotation marks that are also required and mandatory for the formula. So don't forget to put the single quotation marks. And it has to be the little square ones, not the rounder ones that's more like an apostrophe. It needs to be this particular type of single quote. Then you have the square bracket and the 0, and then the equal sign, right? So that's the first part of our equation. Then you hit return to enter the components that make up that total. So it starts the same with the next line, $ values, square bracket, single quote, our adult price field key, single quote, square bracket, 0, square bracket. Okay? Now for our next one, we're going to need to add a plus sign. So again, it's like an equation, but it's backwards. The total is first with the equal sign. Then you have your first component. Then the second component starts with a plus sign. $ values, single quote, my next total amount, square bracket, 0, and then all of your equations must end in a semicolon at the very end of the last line of the macro code. If you've made any mistakes, or if you've made majority of mistakes, when you go to save the macro code and the component, you would get an error at the top. So let's save this component and keep our fingers crossed. And I didn't get an error, and I got a hooray checkbox. I successfully added the total cost onto my form. All right, so let's take a look at it. Every time I add a macro code, I always check it to make sure that it's working. All right, so I'm going to go to my adult price, and I'm going to select 2 adults. I'm going to select 2 children. So quick in my head, it's 40 plus 20 is 60. So my total price on the next page should be 60, if I did the math correct in my head. Oh no, sorry, it's 20 and 10. That's the total amount, so it should be 30. Apologize for that. So next page. It did not show up, so I need to troubleshoot my macro code. I think what I might have be missing here is that sometimes your macro code requires a multiplication of 1, and I'll show you what that looks like. I'm going to go back into the total cost. So I think because it's taking the amount from a previous page, you sometimes need to multiply the individual price by 1 using a *1 as the multiplication is the star and the digit 1. So anything times itself, anything times 1 is the same amount. So let me see if that solves the problem with. Okay, it didn't yell at me, so I know that I didn't put any errant code in there. Let's go back to view. Select my options again. 2 adults is going to be $20. 2 children is going to be $10. So it should add up to 30. Didn't work again. All right. So what's going on? Oh, I know exactly what I did wrong. If you create a 2-page form, you have to go into form settings, scroll down to the bottom, and go into the advanced settings of that form, and you have to check the box for automatically save as draft between pages. That's how the amount on the first page gets transferred to the page in order to be a part of that total. So I apologize for not having gone through that first. So I'm going to go ahead and check the box there, save the configuration, and I'll go over again where to find that. That's under Web Form tab, in Form Settings, Advanced Settings, and you have to check that automatically save draft between pages. So I'm helping you with a little bit of your troubleshooting by making the mistakes myself. So if you put in your macro code and you select options and you go to the next page and there's nothing there at all, check that save draft between pages in there. But now the total cost is 0, so there's still something suspicious going on here. Let me check. Oh, sorry, wrong one here. If my field keys were incorrect, I would have gotten an error message when I created those. Okay, so I actually just needed to come back here.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't have anything selected, so that's why it was 0. So it was working. Yay, now it says 30. So thank you for the person who kind of spoke up there for a second. So again, let me just kind of go through that since I got a little bit discombobulated with that macro code. So into the total cost, down in the macro code, you've got your field key for your total as your first line of the code. Your second line of the adult price plus this last line of the child price, it ends in a semicolon. I actually can take out these times 1 and see if it works, because I tried to do that before I realized that I didn't save between pages. Go back to my form, 2 children, 2 adults. I did make a selection this time, so it did still work without the *1. So just letting you know that you don't have to have the *1. My mistake was not having the save draft between pages. That was the reason why a number was not showing up. All right, so we have the total cost. Now we want to show what the cost would be if we were going to charge a credit card fee for those who wanted to use a credit card. So we're going to now create a total cost with a fee, with the credit card fee. All right, same text field type. Click on Add. All right, again, don't put any macro code in yet. You can set these options, you know, making it just 20 characters wide and inline, but don't mess with the macro code. Just go ahead and save that component before we start working on the macro code. We can cheat a little bit with this one by grabbing the macro code from the previous total cost. So I'm going to go into there, and I'm going to grab this macro code that I've already created, because it really is just a modification of that macro code for here. So click on Edit. This is a little bit cumbersome, so you can shorten it. So total cost fee, let's just use that as our field key here. All right, put it on your cheat sheet. Scroll down, click Open Macro Code. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the code that I had from my previous option and change things up a little bit. I have to take my total cost here and switch it, the total cost for the total cost with fee. This has to match the field key of this total fee field set. I now need to take the adult price and add, multiplying that price by, let's say 2% is our credit card fee. So how would I do that? I'm going to take this line and copy it, put a plus sign in front of it, and now I'm going to multiply that by 0, multiply is the star, 0.02. That's the percentage that the adult ticket price needs to be multiplied by to cover the credit card fee. My credit card fee is 2%. So 0.02 is 2%. Now I need to do the same thing with the child price. I'm going to just copy that price itself and then add a line that then multiplies it by 0.02. All right, let me make this a little bit bigger so that you can see everything. So you take the initial price, let's say $10, then you have to add it to $10 times 0.02 to get the amount, the fee that would be added to just the basic adult price. The same thing with the child price. $5, then $5 times 0.02 to get the amount added on to that $5. So yeah, math and codes, it's a little bit crazy, but you'll get used to it. The more you do these, the better you'll get at them. All right, so with fingers crossed, I am going to trust that all of my code is correct. I did not get a warning sign, so that's good. But now the true test is going to the front, making my selections, okay, and then going to the next page, and great, it looks like it worked. So I have my $30 without the fee and $30.60 with the fee. I forgot to put the dollar sign here, but I can go back and add that. So with just a couple of minutes remaining, I'm going to show you how to put the check and credit card option on there, since we only have a couple of minutes left. All right, so now you're giving the user the option to send in a check by mail or pay with this credit card fee. They know how much it's going to cost them if they pay by credit card. So go back to web form and create a field called payment options. And this is going to be a select option field, check and credit card. Select options, click on add, right? You don't need a field key for this. This is just creating an option for it. Click on manual entry, and I usually put my check first, and you can put pay by check for the user to see, and then credit, and whoops, pay by credit card. And I'm gonna save this on my cheat sheet because I need to know these options to create the conditional rule. Right? So scroll down. I want this to be, I'm going to have radio buttons for this, and I'm going to put it above, so I'm going to click Save. Right? So let's just take a quick look at what it looks like. You see again why it's good to keep the mandatory until the very end. I would be having to fill out a whole lot of information each time I tried to get to the second page if I had everything, if I did have things mandatory. So here's your payment options: pay by check, pay by credit card. It's exactly what I want it to be and what it looks like. Now I need to make conditional fields so that if they pay by check, they see information where to mail it in. And if they want to pay by credit card, they see their payment fields, right? So that's the next step. Click on web form, and then go to pay by check. Is going to be the name of this information, and it's going to be a markup. Click on markup. So to pay by check, please make the check payable to Temple Shalom and mail to your mailing address, etc., etc. And then usually I put in bold, you still need to submit this form in order to save your seats. Okay, so some people think that at this point, once they see this, they don't actually have to submit the form, but you still want their information, and for them to get an email confirmation and to get an email confirmation. All right, so I usually put something in like that for pay by check so that they know they still have to submit the form. Now under conditional rules, I'm going to select conditional rules, select component, I want payment options, and it's gonna, and if someone selects one of check, that markup is going to show. They're going to save that component. All right, here it is, pay by check, ready to go. Now I'm going to do my pay by credit card. With this, you are going to have, I'm just going to have this as, and put please fill out the fields below to pay by credit card, which will include the fee. So you want to make sure that they know that they're going to be paying that fee along with it. Go to conditional rules, select the payment option component, and is one of, and since we only have two options here, I'm going to just put, you can put credit as that. You can also do the negative, which is not one of, and put check, and it should also appear. Okay. All right, so let's check these real quick. Go to the view. Go to the next. Oh, do I have things selected? Yep, still 2 adults, still children. Sometimes it saves the information. So hopefully if I click on paycheck, there I see the information to pay by check, which didn't appear before, blah, blah, blah. If I want to pay by credit card, it should now show that information. And now the last step is to put the payment information field in there so they can fill out their credit card information. So again, if you already have a payment processor set up, then you would put your payment information, title, and select the payment information option. Click on add. All right, and then you will see your payment method here. It would be authorized.net or PayPal. Now you need to select the cost, the amount that's going to go to the payment processor. So since this is for a credit card, we're going to check on the total cost with credit card fee. The amount that shows in that box is what's going to be sent to the credit card, the payment processor, therefore the credit card company. All right. You can just scroll down through the rest of this, and under conditional rules, you want to select that the person has not selected check. We're doing the negative with this one. Okay, so with everything working well in the universe, if we go back to our form, make our selection, okay, our items are here. For some reason it did show up by default, so I might be rushing a little bit here. So payment information, we have that. Total cost, conditional rules is not one of check. Okay, let me just see if I just need to refresh the view of my form real quick. Let me refresh. I'll just reset these. 1 adult, 2 kids, 1 child. Next page. Okay. All right, so I need to figure out why the payment information is still showing. It shouldn't show unless someone has checked that pay by credit card. It may be caching my previous selections. So I'm going to flush the cache on the site just to see if I can get this to work. So while I'm working on that, I'm going to open it up again to everybody. If you want to ask a question over the phone or type something into the chat box for anything that you have questions about or want me to quickly review, since it is a minute after 4. Anyone is interested in any other questions or anything for me to view? Yeah, I'm going to have to troubleshoot that. Okay, so it may not like the negative in the in the conditional rules. So let me change this to one of credit and see if it behaves a little bit better. Because I noticed that both the payment information and the pay by credit card items were both showing up when they shouldn't. Even though when I tested the second option, it behaved okay. So let me just see if I make it in the positive, if that makes any difference. Yep, so that definitely helped. So now if I click on pay by check, that one shows up, and if I pay by credit card, those two fields now show up. So sometimes it's a little bit of troubleshooting, figuring things out. All right, so the question came across of once you've created a form, how do you link it where it needs to go? So great question. Basic thing about forms, when you create your web form and give it a title, in the URL path settings under the Edit tab, it will automatically generate a URL alias based on your title. So this form has the title Midsummer Barbecue, and that is the URL that I would use to link. So if I go back to my form, this is the friendly alias of my web form. I could copy that, and if I wanted to go to the home page and add this as an advertisement, let's do this one. I'll just add it to this block. So instead of our third Friday night potluck, it's going to be our Midsummer Barbecue, and you know, RSVP would be what I would want to link it to. So I'd highlight the RSVP, click on the hyperlink tool, put the / Midsummer Barbecue, click OK. It's now created a hyperlink to that, and now scroll down, save my block. And now when someone comes here to the home page, they want to RSVP for the barbecue, it will take me to my form. But no, I can see this because I'm logged in. If I wasn't logged into the site, the link wouldn't work. It would say access denied because I have this unpublished. So once I'm ready to have it live, two things to do. Go through your fields and make the mandatory fields mandatory. And remember, mandatory fields mean that someone has to answer or put in information in order for them to progress in the form. And the other thing to do is to publish that form if I've unpublished it in order to make it live to everybody else. Okay? See if there's anything else. Yep, so once you have the form created, you can link it in your website from your home page in your content blocks. You can add an image to advertise the event and link to that form in the text box of your slideshow. You could also link to it through your navigation if you have an events area. And you can also use the entire URL. So say this is your site. You can link to this form directly through your other communication avenues, such as an email blast or a newsletter or your Facebook page or your Twitter feed. You can provide this link through any of those other communication areas in order to inform people that this is happening and that they now can sign up. Another great place to link it would be on the calendar that's advertising this event. So once you create the event, you would go into the details of that event. I'm just going to use the Shavuot event as an example. Go into create your event, and then if you wanted someone to be able to RSVP from that event itself, then RSVP for this event. Again, you would hyperlink it. The hyperlink tool, I think I have. And with a content link, you have to have that first / click OK. Save the changes you made to that event. And now this is a live form that you can distribute. A couple of things that I didn't cover were how to set up the email notifications. Remember when we did the email, it needs to be an email type. So if you go to the email option, the component value you want is email, and add, and now when someone submits the form, they will get a notification of all of the information they included in the form, and that's kind of their confirmation that they have signed up for the event. And they'll also know that they've paid for it if it's by credit card or by check. And then if you have people on staff who need to be notified that this form has been submitted, then you would put that email there of the person who needs to be notified, or persons. So if it's several people, you separate it by a comma. And click Add. And now whenever this form is submitted, both the user and those staff members will get a notification that this form has been submitted. And you can go to the Results tab and see the number of people who have signed up and what their information is. So I haven't fully submitted this form yet, but you can see that if I had, the draft wouldn't be here, and you would be able to see also results on the table. So I think only one person is left, Kathleen. Katie, do you have any additional questions? Okay, doesn't look like it. So thanks for participating and for the great questions that did come across. And again, I am going to be creating better support materials for this type of payment form. It can be very complicated, and I'll be adding it to the JVillage website notes how and to page, and I'll also email everyone who was on this training today so that you have direct access to it. So thanks again for everybody's participation and attendance, and talk to you later.